Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are, and thank you for joining us for our webinar, Getting Visual with Value Streams. My name is Sarah Ryan, and I'm delighted to be your moderator for this webinar. Our presenter today is Nicole Bryan. Nicole is our Vice President of Product Management, and in that role she's responsible for aligning our engineering execution with our strategy. As a former developer and VP of Engineering, she's keenly aware of what our customers and prospective customers need as they turn to us for solutions that increase collaboration across all disciplines of the software development and delivery lifecycle. Prior to Tasktop, she served as the Director of Product Management at Borland Software, Micro Focus, where she was responsible for creating a new Agile development management tool. And before that, she was Director at the New York Stock Exchange Regulatory Division, where she managed some of the first Agile project teams at the New York Stock Exchange. So without further ado, I will hand things over to Nicole.
Thanks, everybody. I'm excited to talk today about getting visual with value streams. Very exciting topic. So I first have to start by saying I do know that in the title it does say getting visual. But instead, we're actually going to talk about math, which, how much fun is that going to be to talk about for the next hour? But don't worry, just to prove to you that I promise you there is visual to come. I'll give you a little sneak peek at what we're going to be talking about later. But sit back and get out your pencils. Let's talk about math for a little bit to start with. So here is this crazy equation, VSI equals VSA plus VSV. VSA equals A plus P plus T, sort of over MBI. I do actually realize that this is not real math, but it's actually really important. And so we're basically going to spend the next hour kind of breaking down this equation, and then don't worry, there's storytelling time at the end, so that'll be fun. But let's get started. So you may notice you see a lot of VS's in this equation, and VS, as many of you know, stands for value streams. And I know it's a real popular topic and term now, but I do want to talk a little bit about what really are value streams, especially when it comes to software delivery. And so the way I think of it is it's a big fancy term, value stream management, but it really boils down to some pretty simple concepts, not that they're all that easy to execute on, but basically wait as little as possible, process as fast as possible, limit how much you do at once, pass it on as quickly as possible, and get feedback quick and iterate. So if you just keep those points in mind as we go through this, that's really what value streams focus on and value stream management focus on. So value streams are the shortest path through your software delivery processes that ensures the lowest wait times and the shortest processing times by limiting volume and ensuring quick pass points with fast feedback. And I'm sure all of you are like, yeah, I get it, I'm there. But if you take a step back for 1 second, for what? What are you waiting on? And what are you trying to process fast? And what are you passing on as quickly as possible? And what are you getting feedback on? And so the answer to that question is actually artifacts. So artifacts are at the heart of any value stream that involves software delivery. It's all about the artifacts, and those artifacts really form the currency of communication. And so it's actually kind of funny when I first started at Tasktop and we would talk about artifacts. Primarily, we talked about defects and stories, and maybe some requirements, and obviously tasks, given the history of Tasktop. But the number of artifacts that we very regularly encounter now when talking about value streams has exploded quite a bit. And the reality is that if you want to improve your value stream, you are going to need to spend a really significant amount of time focusing on the artifacts that you use. And wouldn't that be great if that's all you had to do? That would be fabulous. But life is, of course, not that simple because those artifacts, they don't all live in one tool. And they aren't all worked on by just one part of the organization. And so what do? Well, you have to deal with artifacts plus people plus tools together. And to dig a little deeper, or to actually, I don't know, maybe put it in a little catchier way, artifacts have to be in the right place at the right time for the right person with the right information. And all that sounds great, but how do you do that? Well, you do that with value stream automation. That's why you've got to have value stream automation. The ability to automate the flow of those artifacts between tools so that the right people can see the right information at the right time and in the right tool. So we've unveiled our first acronym. I think that was the first one I unveiled. And I think a great way of showing value stream automation is just to give an example. And so here you have a very common situation where you've got business analysts, software developers, testers, and they're using a variety of tools to do their jobs, both requirements management tools, agile management, test management tools, and of course source code management. And so value stream automation allows you to do things like flow requirements from the business analyst tool into the software developer agile management tool. And the software developer can then break down the epic into stories. And then with value stream automation, we automatically flow that information over into the test management tool. And then in the test management tool, in the source code management tool, of course, you actually code. And value stream automation can automatically link the code to the stories that are being worked on. And then when defects are inevitably found in the test management tool, again, value stream automation can flow that information back to the agile management tool. And so I'm just going to show real quick in Tasktop, in the Tasktop product, what this ends up looking like. If I can find my mouse. My mouse has disappeared. Hold on. Let's see if it's... I have no mouse, which is going to make it slightly more challenging. There it is. Now it's back. So here you see JAMA, JIRA, and HP. And if I were to go ahead and show the flow, I'm flowing requirements from JAMA to JIRA, and then stories and requirements to HP, and defects back into JIRA. And if I were to look into one in particular, what's really key with value stream automation is the ability to control that flow. And so with a tool like Tasktop, you can control the creation flow, the field flow, do things like create filters to make sure you're only flowing the relevant information, comments and attachments, etc. And so this is at the heart of the first step for value stream integration, which is that ability to automate the flow between tools. So now that my mouse seems to be back. So hold on a second. I think maybe we just solved the first part of the equation. So value stream automation is really kind of the sum of the artifacts and the flowing of artifacts to the right people in the right tools. But it seems like there's more. You can see my my little MBI acronym, and that then is the next piece to the equation that we need to talk through. So model-based integration is what MBI stands for, and model-based integration is really the glue. It's the key piece to actually bring the equation to life. Is how I call about it. Is how I talk about it. So value stream automation is the ability to seamlessly flow artifacts between people via their tools, and it relies on model-based integration, MBI, to do that. So I want to talk a little bit more about model-based integration. Because as I said, it really is the glue and the underpinnings for what will allow you to have a successful value stream automation environment. So what you see here on this slide is, and you know, all of y'all are in this industry and you know this to be the case, your ITSM tool, your Agile tool, your APM tool, automated test tool, your test management tools, all these different tools, they have a slightly different flavor, a different take on what would at some level be called a defect. Sometimes they're called issues, sometimes they're actually problems, sometimes it's, you know, it's actually something that's kind of a little bit different, it's an alert, but that might actually cause you to decide to create a defect. And so what model-based integration does is it allows you to have this kind of common language, this common model in the middle, which is really at the core one of the most critical. Actually, I would almost argue, I think I would almost argue, is probably the most critical aspect to being able to successfully scale integration. So I want to talk about why they are this glue. So first off, they provide a standardized view into the definition of an artifact. And I think that is pretty clear, especially to any of y'all in much larger organizations. Having a common and standard definition of artifacts and not having things be the wild, wild west is pretty important and not that trivial to do either. But in addition to that, models also ensure that you have intended and efficient flow of data. So you really only want to flow information that is declared and is necessary to flow. And that ensures performant and correct visibility throughout your value stream. And then last, it provides the ability to scale your integrations, because if you only have two systems talking to each other, you might be able to get away with not focusing as much on models. But as soon as you've got 3, 4, 5, 10 systems talking to each other, you've got to allow for reusability in order to provide scalability, and models really ensure that that happens. So yay, we've solved more of the equation. We're getting there. We're well on our way. But that word automation actually kind of scares me sometimes. It really isn't good enough. It's one step, because if you can't see your value stream, if you can't truly see it, you really don't have any hope of being able to improve it. And the problem is that when people say automate, they typically focus on, as the slide indicates, only the behind-the-scenes aspects of flowing artifacts. But if you can't visualize your value stream, then it's really verging on impossible to see the big picture and be able to identify holes and gaps and bottlenecks. So Tasktop has been automating flows for many years, many years. And what we've learned is that even though we have these massively complex integrations across many tools, if we can't visualize the entire landscape, visualize the entire value stream, we find ourselves to be continually limited and constantly relegated to kind of the behind-the-scenes view of the world. So again, I'm a very practical person. Let's look at it from a practical perspective after seeing all the lovely cliched quotes about the importance of visualization. So I pose to you, these are screenshots of Tasktop Integration Hub. Can you get an overall sense of your value stream and understand what things are flowing where with ease? I would argue not. In fact, I usually, when I do this live with people, I say, okay, in 2 seconds or less, tell me what systems are involved. 1, 2, nope, okay. Tell me how many different artifacts are involved. Nope, okay. And so really what it requires is that value stream automation simply isn't enough. You need value stream visibility as well. Otherwise, you simply cannot manage the complexity of your value streams. So again, going back to the example that I gave earlier, this is actually a good visual representation of how things flow. And now in Tasktop Integration Hub, if my mouse will come back, I can tell I'm going to have to play this game all throughout this entire webinar. If I go back to the landscape view, now I am able to see this flow of information in my value stream integration tool itself. And I can instantly see that requirements are flowing. But oh, by the way, I can even get more information, say, oh, requirements from JAMA flow in as epics into JIRA. And stories in JIRA flow as child requirements, which would make sense because, oh, by the way, the epics are flowing as parent requirements into HP. And so you can see that being able to visualize this, your value stream, your integration landscape, is really the key behind being able to scale up. Okay, and now comes the fun part. Well, I don't know how fun it is, but maybe it's fun. But hopefully some of you remember playing the cloud game when you were a kid, and you would look up at the clouds and see the different shapes, and you'd think that you saw, you know, monsters. And so we have this thing at Tasktop. I guess it is kind of dorky, but we play this game, or we play the cloud game with our value stream visualizations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a few. Here's one. I call this one the pinwheel lollipop, but of course you may be seeing something different. This one I sort of see hammocks, sometimes I see bananas, but this one, I'm going to pause for a minute and let you soak this one in, because this one undoubtedly, in my mind, undoubtedly is a snail. Does everybody see the snail? And then this one, and the funny thing is nobody is doing this on purpose, I swear to you. I get sent these all the time. This one is obviously a completely adorable, cute little dog. And
Nicole, then, I'm going to have to interrupt you because it's clearly a duck. I think there are two factions at Tasktop, duck versus dog.
You see, I'm not lying. We do play this game. But do we agree, Sarah? Is this one a snail? I think
it's definitely a snail.
Definitely a snail. Yeah, definitely a snail. Okay, dog or duck. Isn't there a pub in Austin, the Dog or Duck? We could go there and argue about that.
Good idea.
And then, of course, we should always end with a smiley face. You can never go wrong with a nice smile. I don't know, this person has green teeth. That's not very inspiring. But all games aside, being able to see and actually interact with your value stream in a visually intuitive way really is a game changer, right? It really is the next step in the maturity and sophistication of your value stream management journey. So yeah, now I guess we have to go back to math after all that fun getting visual with value streams. But we did just solve more of the equation. And that equation, I wonder if I were in a room live with y'all, I wonder if y'all could tell me without me telling you. VSI equals VSA plus VSV. What does it stand for? Well, value stream integration equals value stream automation plus value stream visibility. Once you have both of those, you will have success in your ability to develop and expand your value stream integrations. Soon it's going to be story time, but before we get to story time, I just wanted to have everyone ponder for a few minutes, or you can stare dreamingly at the dog and the duck and the lollipop. Just ponder a few things. Do you really want to manage something as complex as these? These are real, by the way. I didn't make these up. As complex as these environments with piecemeal one-off integrations. That would be pretty difficult to do. And another one is, did you know how dependent your value stream itself is on successful integration, because all of these value stream visualizations are showing flows of information between tools. Because you've got, if you look at the lollipop one, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's 11 different tools. Being able to show that, to have a successful value stream with 11 tools is clearly dependent on integration between them. And then last but not least, ponder whether or not, because honestly, I go to customers a lot and they show me pictures of their value streams and of their application landscape. And almost all of them are manually created, and you can go manually create them, or you can have it continuously auto-generated with actual accuracy of what's truly happening in your value stream. So with that left for you to ponder for a bit, we are now going to, it's story time. It's storytelling time. So everybody can do what my daughter did this morning. She got to wear pajamas to school today and bring her pillow with her and her book. So once upon a time, there was a company called Tasktop. And they were a growing company, and they really wanted to know how to improve how quickly they could get requests turned into features and out to customers. But there was a big, bad wolf, and that kept getting in the way. So what in the world did they do? Well, they had zeroed in on their feature to request value stream, but how did they improve it? Well, it turns out there's this crazy math equation that helps. All kind of kitschiness aside, this really is a story about Tasktop. So here, this really is a bunch of Tastopians. The primary people involved with the value stream for requests and features. We've got our solutions guys, our engineers. Lucas runs engineering. We've got Jeff in pre-sales. I'm there, Lori. And we have spent a decent chunk of time talking through how we want to improve that value stream. And so getting the right people to the table is absolutely critical. We actually meet weekly about it. So next, of course, and yes, I'll tell you a quick funny story. I told everybody I was going to take a screenshot, and then everybody sort of semi-posed. Lori's looking very thoughtful. Scott's very intense. Anyway, so the next thing is that we had to identify what tools were involved. This was actually pretty interesting, because originally we thought the only tools involved were Salesforce, where requests originate, and Target Process, where we do all of our product management. But in the course of our conversations, it actually came to pass that Jira, of course not surprisingly, was also involved, because that's the tool that the developers use. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. So those are the tools that were involved. And then we took a look at all of the artifacts. And no, I did not intentionally put them all next to each other, but features, tasks, and requests were the main areas of focus for this. And now comes the really interesting bit, and that's the model-based integration bit. So here's the model. In the case for us, it was a request model. And by virtue of starting with a model, and we literally, I'll go back into the tool, but I have to get my mouse to be happy with me. I'm going to flip over here. This is our real Tasktop instance. Click on models, and we come in here and we start talking about requests. And we use our model interface to talk about which pieces of information are critical and important to these value streams. And so I want to talk a little bit about how MBI, model-based integration, helped in this conversation. So as I said before, and I can't say it enough, it provides a common language. But let's put that one aside for a second. The next thing is tool agnostic. So I get on the phone with Jeff and Sean and Lori and Lucas, And everybody starts talking about, well, in Salesforce we do da-da-da-da-da. In target process we do da-da-da-da. Hold on a second. I don't care what you do in Salesforce. I don't care what you do in target process. We need to be tool agnostic because we're talking not about fields but about information. And the models kind of extract away this initial kind of focus on the tools first. It's really about the information and about the business need. So if you go back and look at this model, these are business level pieces of information. I don't know what fields they are in Salesforce. I don't know if some of them are tracked in Salesforce, but I know this is the information that I need to see. And then it provides a path for onion peeling. And by that what I mean is that that you don't need to start with a hugely sophisticated model that has 100 fields. In fact, oftentimes you should never have a model with that many fields. But you can start small, and in fact, if I didn't take screenshots, but originally our request model started out probably with about 10 fields, 10 pieces of information, and has scaled up over the weeks as we've been working through this. And then the other thing that models really helped with is that it made it more efficient, because on the call we have tools experts. We have, they weren't in the screenshot I showed you, but Zoe is the Salesforce expert and Rob is the Jira expert. And they're sitting there listening as the process people and domain experts are talking. And they're able to focus then on the tool side as we're talking through the right model elements that we need to flow. And then as I talked earlier, the scaling up factor, being able to share that same model across your entire organization is of course critical. Makes things more inefficient. So these are some pretty concrete things that by using models that really helped us. And I want to tell one more quick story that through the value stream automation process that we've been going through, we actually ourselves uncovered a significant hole in our value stream. And we discovered it because of the model-based integration approach. And that hole was actually what made us realize, hold on a second, it's not just about the request going from Salesforce into target process. And we, of course, know that eventually that request gets turned into features, and those features flow over into Jira. But we forgot that when we get a request, oftentimes we first, just a little task to be spawned off in Jira so that they can do a little research for us on the request before we even know what the feature should be. It was a pretty interesting light bulb moment that because of a value stream automation process and using MBI, we actually discovered this hole in our value stream, which was pretty cool. And now we're actually adding another flow to our value stream in order to plug the gap. So was our problem solved? You might say yes, but no. We only had tackled the second half of the equation. And so there isn't true value stream integration unless there's also value stream visibility. And so I'm going to go back into our tool, into Hub. And now I'm showing the Tasktop. This is our real instance. I'm going to zoom in to the part of the value stream that we've been talking about today. You can see we've got Salesforce and Target Process and Jira. And now I want to see a little bit more. And now I can see what is flowing. Well, requests are flowing from Salesforce to Target Process. And this right here is the hole that we discovered, that we realized that sometimes those requests need to flow over into Jira. But you know what? They're not really a request at that point. They're actually a task at that point. So, and interestingly, in Salesforce, the actual object in Salesforce is called a highlighter. I have no idea how we came up with that. But it flows into Target Process as a request. Then, if necessary, we have that request flow into Jira as a task. Once we are able to break down that request and understand the features, those features then flow as epics into Jira. And of course, there's many other pieces to the value stream as well. You can see it gets pretty intense. But I'm not going to talk about that part of our value stream today. But it's interesting if you can interact and visualize and imagine that you're coming into this kind of, and you don't know what part of the value stream you want to focus on, but you know that you're interested in understanding better the request flow. Well, you can go ahead and filter down and see, oh, okay, these are where all the requests go. Now I could then, zoom back in and focus on requests. Or if I wanted to look into a specific integration that is then involved in that, and in fact I was going to show this a little bit, I want to focus on how we flow those requests over as tasks. And so I'm going to go into that actual integration. What's interesting about this integration is that you'll notice that there's one project on the target process side, but there's 6 on the JIRA side. So let's dig into that a little bit. You can see I have one-way creation happening. Requests in target process flow as tasks. But let's talk about how I route them to the 6 different or 5 different projects in JIRA. And we do this via what we call conditional routing. I have a field in my model, a component, and based on the value of that component, I know whether or not it should go to the apps team, the connectors project, the SDK, dev, or sync. So again, I'm able to very intuitively flow from a very high-level, big-picture view of how things are flowing between systems. And then I can also instantly go into much more of the details, as I showed with the conditional routing. So that is how, I have to get back into my storytelling voice, and that is how Tasktop or any organization can approach improving your value streams. You need to get automated, get visual, and use model-based integration. And oh, by the way, don't forget your math. And that is the end of our story. And it is also the end of this session, of this webinar. I hope you enjoyed getting visual with value streams. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that anyone may have. Sarah, I will ask you to help me know if there have been questions asked.
There have. So let's see, we have a couple of people who have commented on how complex this is and asking for a little bit of advice on how to get started. So it says the entire process is a bit complicated for the projects that are at the start value stream mapping exercise. Should we begin with some simple steps to depict value stream management and then move on to the more advanced flow?
Yes, I almost feel like that I must have planted that question because that is absolutely the most important thing. If you take away nothing from this webinar other than visualization and math, starting simple is absolutely critical. I absolutely recommend that you only start with one piece of your value stream, especially in really large organizations. It's not trivial to coordinate the people, process, tools aspect of things, and so I absolutely recommend that you start with actually, sometimes it can be helpful to start with not only just a piece, but a piece that is already kind of working sort of okay, because that helps kind of get you into the swing of things and get you practicing on thinking in a value stream way and thinking in value stream automation and the flows between tools. So yeah, definitely start simple and then scale up. You'd be surprised at how you start simple and it seems like, oh my God, this is crazy, but it actually, once you start doing it more, it does start to pick up steam and things start to move a bit faster.
There's a follow-up question to that as well for kind of how you integrate it into your existing processes. So when should you plan for value stream automation for a development project? At the beginning or in the middle? How do you include it in sprint planning?
Yeah. Yeah, it should be an ongoing and forever part of your process. Now, absolutely, you should focus on it, with intense eyes at the beginning of a project, but do not get wrapped around the axle around having it all perfect before you start something. In fact, the story I told telling about Tasktop, we're doing it on the fly. We're in there and we've been setting up flows and letting information flow and then deciding, oh no, we don't like this, turn it off, try it again, do it this way. Do we want comments going back and forth? First we said no, then we said yes. So it is an ongoing, it needs to be part of your sprint retros. How are we doing on our value stream? Anything we want to change with that? It should absolutely be a constant part of your entire organization's conversation.
Great, thank you. There was a question about the models that you talked about. Is that something that Tasktop can create, or is that something that they need to create on their own?
So you are more than welcome to create them on your own, but I will say, if I can get my mouse back, that Tasktop has a set of out-of-the-box models that come with the product. We've mucked with ours. Let me show this one. It's a better view into the out-of-the-box ones. And so you're welcome to start with the out-of-the-box models that we come with, but you're also, of course, welcome to create your own and change them.
Okay, next question. How long did it take Tasktop to see improvements in their value stream?
So we pretty quickly, within, I would say, within a month, you see improvement. There's usually a few bumps in the road, but one thing, and this is the softer side of this, the flows and the automation obviously is the underpinnings, but really what it does is it forces people to talk and it forces people to communicate. And that is the real, the real end value add. And so you see that pretty, pretty quick. You see that, and obviously larger organizations, might take a little bit more time because you're coordinating a lot more people. But I really encourage you to not boil the ocean. Don't start out with a big, 400, 50-person meeting about how we're going to do this. Get a small group, get things started, try it out, and then iterate.
Great. Yeah, I think you've kind of answered. We had another question about more along the model base. Should you start with more complicated or the simple models, or should you kind of try to get the big ones first?
Yeah, I would start simple.
Yeah.
Start simple.
Great. Well, if anyone has any other questions, please enter them in now. Let's see. I think we have some specific questions about what's included in our last release, which is when we did debut this, the integration landscape view. You can go to our What's New page and find out what's included in that release. I'll send you links to those specifically as well. If there aren't any other questions, I think that might be it for us for today.
Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And as you see on your screen, if you want to learn more, you can obviously go to our website. You can request a demo. There's a video on there. You can see some more, a demo. But if you want to personalize one with the tools that you have in your environment, you can request one there. Or if you have any other questions, just fill out the form on our Contact Us page, and we will get back to you. So thank you, everyone. This concludes the webinar.
Bye, all.